Hello, this is Ed Keay-Smith. I am the co-host of The Asset Show, here with the host of the show, Mr. Rob Kaay. Hey, Rob, how you going?
Good, mate. I can't believe we've started a new show.
We've started a new show. So for anyone who's come along for the first time, this is the first episode. It's an introduction episode to The Asset Show, and we're happy to have you along. And we've got a bit of a backstory to tell about what Rob and I have done in the past, because people who are coming here for the first time may not necessarily know who we are. We've got a bit of a history in doing podcasts in the subject of investing in domain names, which we've done for many years and had 35 odd episodes, which you can see linked on the website. And we're going to be talking about domain names still and many other things that I'll hand over to Rob to give a bit of an insight as to where we've been, where we're going, and how we think it can benefit you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. So Ed and I used to run a show called The Domainer Show. It was about Australian domain names, but we also interviewed international guests like Rick Schwartz and some other famous domain investors in America. When did we start that, Ed? Wasn't it like
2018?
Yeah, that's right. So we did that for a couple of years and we had a lot of fun. We did about 35 shows. We ended up finishing up that brand late last year, but we've managed to move all the 35 Domainer shows over to assets.com.au. So if you click on domain names in the top menu and then you look at Domainer Show, you can go and watch some of those 35 episodes with different people talking about big domain name sales, which are digital asset sales. That's obviously been going on for decades, and they've been going up in price, domain names, as the years have gone on. Rather than continue on with the Domainer Show, we decided to start the Assets Show, which is where we're at today.
That makes sense.
It makes sense. Because even though for, I don't know, close to 10 years, you even longer than that, Ed, we've been investing in domain names. And 10 years ago, I mean, when I got into it, I thought I was pretty good at investing in digital assets being domain names, but little did I know that digital assets would become what it is today, which is not just domain names. It's like cryptocurrency, blockchain, NFTs, all this sort of stuff. Yeah. So long story short, Ed and I, towards the end of last year, decided, you know what? We're having a lot of fun talking about domain name digital assets, but why don't we talk about all kinds of digital assets? Because we're both into not just domain names, but the other stuff. Crypto, NFTs, and there's even more than that. And there's more being invented all the time.
Yep, 100%. And like we did on the Domainer Show, we are going to have some of the world leading people in all of these subjects come on as guests. It's not just going to be us two talking heads talking about stuff, even though there'll be episodes where we do that. There'll be more improved educational content on how to use things, how to do things, because it's pretty unclear with a lot of stuff how to get involved with different things like cryptocurrencies and setting up cryptocurrency wallets, all that sort of stuff. It's very confusing. It hasn't gotten to a point where it's user friendly yet, I don't believe. So we'll be doing things like that as well. So I think there's a lot more we can cover, and don't doubt we are still going to be talking about domain names. It's not like it's actually more exciting because domain names encompass and are wrapped up with things to do with crypto. They all revolve around each other like planets, so like the planet behind Rob behind his head there.
Well, I think it's a galaxy, or
maybe it's a galaxy. There you go, galaxy, stars, planets.
I think we were a planet doing domain names, Ed, and now we've gone and we've seen there's a bigger like digital assets galaxy out there, not with things other than just domain names.
100%.
So a little bit about what Ed and I have been doing over the past few years with domain names. Ed and I run a domain brokerage firm called dbr.com.au. We were finding, especially last year, more and more business people, entrepreneurs and companies, when they were buying premium domain names from us, were also, starting to ask questions about cryptocurrency and other sorts of digital assets, which is kind of what made us think maybe we shouldn't just be talking about domain names. We should also be talking about other kinds of digital assets.
Yeah. Yep.
And actually, let's talk about Australian domain names in the past few months. So Australian companies have been coming to us at dbr.com.au to ask us to help them get their dream domain name and upgrade from, say, a long domain name or a 2-word domain name to more like a 1-word premium domain name. In the first month of this year alone, DBR has acquired over $500,000 worth of domain names for our clients. And in the past 3 months, we've done over $700,000 worth of domain name sales just in Australia. There were a few .coms in there, mostly .com.aus, and even inquiries into other sorts of extensions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a pattern that I'm picking up now, is a lot of people are seeing the opportunities available for other extensions outside of .com.au. In particular, if they're running an internationally based business, .com.au will not be effective at all, no. in my opinion. So they're wanting to have, of course, a .com. .com is the undisputed king. Rob and I will never argue against that fact.
No, and we're a testament to that as well, because our new brand, Assets Australia, and this is the Assets Show, we run the brand in Australia at assets.com.au, but we also own assetsaustralia.com. So as this goes out on YouTube and Spotify, people can see we're an international brand, but we're Australians talking about assets internationally.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why people want to have other options, and they're going for extensions like .co, .io, .gg is big in the sports space. And then there's the crypto domains like .eth or .crypto, which is a whole other subject matter that's taking things that are decentralizing the domain space. So there's endless topics we can talk about, and we're not going to, even though our core focus that Rob and I want to talk about, and the reason we want to bring all the stuff we talk about offline, because we're always talking about all this sort of stuff offline, as well as domain names. As Rob said, we've got to talk about it and do a podcast about it, because all the stuff we're talking about is not getting put anywhere, and it could be of value to someone. Yeah, it all comes into being part of whatever your portfolio is. And the thing would say, and we need to have this at the start of every episode, and is that this is not financial advice. All the things we're talking about are just Rob and I's opinion. It's for educational purposes only. Do your own research. Anything we talk about, you need to go and investigate, speak to your accountant, speak to your lawyers, speak to your professional investment advisors, your financial planners. This is just our opinion. So you really, we want to impart some information, plant some seeds, get you aware of things that you may not have been aware about. What are these crypto things, these NFT things that people are talking about, because it can be confusing. And the funny thing is, I find, Rob, is that even though I've been in the domain space for 20 years, there's still people that don't know how to go and register a domain name, even now. 25
You know what I find
years.
funny as well, the back-end infrastructure for registering a domain name and even the payment gateways for that to be a reseller or a registrar, those systems are quite old as well. Which is, I guess, why we're getting more interested in this blockchain technology. I know it's such a buzzword, but as Ed was saying a minute ago, domain names for 30 years have been, and longer than that, have been built on DNS, like the domain name system. But blockchain and cryptocurrency and NFTs, blockchain's different than DNS, and we'll explain that in future episodes. But there's also, Ed mentioned before, there's new types of domain names coming out, like .eth, where instead of just the domain name being your email address and website, blockchain domains on the Ethereum name service,
Yep.
which instead of just being your website and your email address is also like your digital wallet. It holds your NFTs. It allows you to buy and sell cryptocurrency, of course. It can also be used for like digital identification and all kinds of stuff. So that's another reason why Ed and I thought, why are we just talking about domain names all the time? Because there's a whole new kind of blockchain fundamental system that's coming that's probably going to change the internet forever, if it hasn't already done that.
And funnily enough, mate, we had the guys on talking about unstoppable domains, which is
years ago,
realm, like 2018, 2019. One of the first people we had on the show that Rob met at an event over in the Eastern States.
Yeah, I met him at NamesCon, which is a domain name conference in Vegas about 3 years ago. And to this, right, what we're talking about right now is in the Domainer Show archives that we were talking about before. So you can go and look at one of the first 10 episodes we did with, I think his name was Cam from Unstoppable Domains. Staying on the domain name topic just for one more second.
Go for it.
It's just, obviously we want to be talking about more than just domain names as digital assets on this show going forward. And we've got guests from different kinds of digital assets coming up. Ed was just saying to me earlier that there's a woman in India that's been selling .xyz domain names, and she'd sold over 300 .xyz domain names in September last year for over 600,000 US. Individually, I think she'd sold over 300, and she just sold one recently, didn't she?
She just did another one, I think, that sold for 48,000.
It's the .xyz.
.xyz, and a lot of these .xyzs you can pick up. I'm not saying, as a new registration for a couple of dollars.
Yeah.
We're talking about Swetha. Swetha is her name, Swetha. But yeah, has a very large number of .xyz domains, and she is absolutely killing it. She's had some huge success and selling names regularly for $20,000. If you follow her on Twitter, we'll put a link to this too, to her Twitter page. It's worth just watching what she's doing. She goes under the handle at domain name gear, G-E-A-R, domain name gear. She's constantly posting what she's doing and what she's selling names for. And it just goes to show there is opportunity everywhere. And a lot of these names people wouldn't have given a second thought to a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And now, because people don't have the budget to go and spend 6 figures, 7 figures for a .com, they've got to get something. They still want a good name. The bit before the dot, they want to have a good name. So they've got to go with an option that what's another popular, easy to remember extension like .xyz.
Absolutely. And you find a lot of companies are starting to think, even Australian companies are starting to think out of the box of not just using .com.au, even though that still is king at the moment in Australia. But there's a friend of mine told me there's a new mobile service provider. We're not paid by them to endorse them or anything like that, but they've chosen to go with the brand Circle.life. And I forget what he said, but it was $8 or $10 a month for unlimited SMS service or calls or whatever. I mean, they could have chosen some other .com.au name. They decided to go with Circle.life. Of course, a lot of people are buying .io, they're buying .finance, .org, .co. There's a lot of options. So we're going to explore all these in future shows, and we'll talk more about kind of like blockchain domain names on the ENS rather than the DNS.
And this is also the fascinating thing. This all ties in. Things like the metaverse, right? People have seen a lot of exposure about the metaverse and what it is. I mean, Facebook renamed itself to Meta. And Mark Zuckerberg is hijacking the actual open source real meaning of metaverse, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of other people's opinions.
It's like he's trying to say, well, he is, Facebook has become
we are the metaverse. But just so people who are listening to this know, they are not the metaverse. They've just been very clever with their marketing and picked up a name which is Meta. The
we need
metaverse
to do a whole article
as another thing
video on this, on what is the metaverse and what is it to do with Web 3.0, because apparently we're coming out of Web 2.0. We can
definitely.
And does that include crypto and NFT and blockchain technology? Well, yes, it does. Does it include VR and augmented reality? Yes, it does.
Yeah,
we need to get some guests on to talk about that too.
Yeah, and this is the thing: people are registering domain names related to all of these subjects that didn't exist 2 years ago. And people are often saying all the good domain names are gone. There's no opportunities in domain names, and that is just the farthest thing from the truth, because there's things that don't exist now that will come into existence in a year now, of 2 years from now.
Exactly. So if you'd gone and bought meta.com a couple of years ago, it probably would have been 1/20th of the price. Easily. You can imagine what Mark Zuckerberg paid for meta.com, because it was already a catchword, metaverse, you know.
Absolutely. So all of these things we're talking about, we want to bring to people's attention and get people who come along who are confused and want to get some clarity and be made aware of things that are happening in this space. And that's
and it's basically two just normal Aussie dudes, myself and Ed,
normal
chatting.
I wouldn't say
actually I screwed up there.
I wouldn't say we're normal.
We're just basically
don't cut that out, because it's true. What is normal?
We're having a chat about stuff that we're interested in, and you know, you've got to do your own research and make your own mind up, but we're just going to tell you what we're looking at and try and give anyone we remember what it was like to enter an industry or be a beginner, so to speak. And we just want to provide as much information as we can to help point people in the right direction for them then to go and dive deep themselves.
Yep, 100%. We want you along for the ride, and we want you asking questions and putting things in the comments of these shows, whether it's on YouTube or on Spotify or on the website itself. Things you want to learn more about, people you want to have as guests on the show. We're open to looking at anything and seeing what we can do. We're going to be busy. We've got a lot of stuff lined up. It's going to be a constant effort to keep up with it all, but that's part of the excitement. And
well, I mean, we were getting excited about doing domain name shows every week. I mean, now we're like exploded like this galaxy in the background here, where we don't just want to talk about domain names. Sure, we're going to have people coming on talking about domain names, but we want to have guests talking about all kinds of things. And as an example, next week, we've already lined up these two young entrepreneurs to come on to talk about how they recently spent, 5 figures on getting a better .com.au domain name for their business. And I think they've got a genius product. So we'll get them on and they can explain why they upgraded their domain name and spent money on it and what their business does. But then at the same time, we're also doing a show next week on 2 Australian domain investors that have invested in NFTs. So and in NFTs, we'll get into this in future shows for some people who don't exactly get what NFTs are. And by the way, you're not supposed to really understand what NFTs are at the moment because they're still developing. But these 2 domain investors that we'll get on next week have spent a lot of money. I'm not sure how much, but lots on buying some JPEGs that are worth a lot of money as an NFT. And I mean, Ed, you're more into the NFT JPEG side of things than me. Am I disrespecting them by calling them?
Oh, look, you do whatever you like because you're not the only one. It's like there's a long line of people just shaking their head going, what is all this? Me included. I mean, I'm along for the ride going, okay, whatever. There seems to be a lot of action going and it could just be a gigantic bubble and things could all implode. But things like, and I have this conversation and every time these words come out of my mouth, I say to people, have you heard of the Bored Ape Yacht Club? And people look at me like I've just come out of an institution. What the heck are you talking about? What's the Bored Ape Yacht Club? Well, it's an NFT. It's a picture of these apes that are in a non-fungible token format. So it's connected to the blockchain to prove you actually own that JPEG or that picture. And people go, what? And I say, and the lowest price they're selling for is about 300,000 Australian dollars. And they go for up to millions. Justin Bieber just paid 500,000 for one.
There's a lot of
3 days.
Was it Kevin Smith bought one, the actor?
Yeah,
I think Snoop Dogg bought one.
Snoop Dogg. It's really, it's the equivalent online of like, you know, buying a Lamborghini or something to, you know,
a
to
JPEG
flash.
picture Rolex.
Yeah, it's a flex thing. It's all a flex thing, and you're part of this community. There's only 10,000 of these Bored Ape Yacht Clubs. And
okay, anyway, so there's only 10,000. See, we've got two guys coming on who have bought one of these Bored Apes next week, and you might recognize them, and we'll do a whole episode on it, and we'll explain what an NFT is, where it's going. By the way, I know we're talking about Bored Ape JPEGs here, right? I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
No, I just still find it funny.
What it is. And I'm not saying it's not worth money. They are worth money if they're unique and individual. That's like some people would say, well, why is assets.com.au worth money? It's just a silly domain name. It's just, you can't grab it. It's a digital asset. It doesn't exist. It's like,
it's untangible.
It's worth a lot of money because it is. And the same with that particular Bored Ape. That 1 out of 10,000 is worth a lot of money because a lot of people want it. I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful by calling them that, but there are other, in NFTs, it's not just about pictures. It can be about all kinds of stuff. But just so you know that this is not just I don't think it's a bubble, by the way, because even the picture side of NFTs, because you've got like Marvel have,
look,
and DC have made NFTs of Spider-Man, and I mean, you can't stop it. I mean, the NFL in America have started doing NFT like baseball cards of football players. I mean,
it's endless.
Got to jump
Adidas,
on
man, it's
Adidas and Nike are bringing out NFTs. Wait till Coca-Cola brings out an NFT on every can of Coke. I mean, we're going to talk about all that.
Yeah, there's literally 20 episodes we could do just on NFTs easily.
And we will.
And I'm excited because I do not know everything about NFTs in any way, shape or form. I'm still
I don't think anyone does.
A novice. It's all being discovered.
1994
it is equivalent.
In terms of crypto and NFT. We're early, which is probably why we're one of the only shows in Australia doing this. I mean, I know Fred from Finder does a lot of crypto shows, but I don't know, there might be a handful of people that are doing it, but we decided to do it because we couldn't find a lot of information on this stuff over the last year for ourselves. We've had to learn the hard way. So we figured we may as well let some people know what we've learned so far. Yeah.
And look, there's more and more stuff coming online on YouTube and various things, but we want to have the Australian slant to it because no one does it like Australians. There's too many Americans talking about this stuff. I'm only kidding, but let's put the Aussie twist to it. That makes it much more entertaining, in my opinion.
I agree with that. We'll do it in our own unique Australian way, which is not necessarily better, but it's something.
Just different.
It's just definitely different.
Yeah.
And then one last thing we'll talk about, otherwise we'll be here. I mean, we could talk 20 hours about all this stuff, and we will over the next 20 episodes. Of course, we're also going to be bringing on guests and talking about cryptocurrency. So literally like layer 1 protocols, layer 2 protocols, like Ethereum's a layer 1 protocol. So it's its own blockchain. Bitcoin is a layer 1 protocol. It's its own blockchain. I mean, I think there's like 16,000 cryptocurrencies right now, but they're not all layer 1 protocols like Ethereum. We're going to explain all this stuff to you guys, and we're going to explain how you buy cryptocurrencies. If you want to buy, we're not saying you should buy cryptocurrencies, but if you want to buy cryptocurrencies, we're going to teach you how to do it properly because we've had to go through a massive learning curve to figure out how to do this. You can, the short story is, we'll get into the long version. You can use an exchange, like a centralized exchange, kind of like a Facebook or a Google, where you give them your money and you kind of buy the cryptocurrency on their exchange. But we'll also show you ways to buy cryptocurrency in a decentralized way, which means using your own wallet. So kind of becoming your own digital bank, where you're buying your own cryptocurrency and trading it, and you're in charge of it. So literally, if you screw it up, you lose it.
That's the downside to actually looking after it yourself, is that there's no one to fall back on usually.
Well, there isn't, and we all know this. If you make a mistake, you can send your money somewhere, and then that's it. I mean, you can send your crypto somewhere, and that's it.
To the wrong place.
This is what, it's not as scary as it sounds, as long as you get just a basic form of education into it, including like how to use a MetaMask wallet.
How to use one of these, a Ledger, digital cold wallet, they call them, or hardware wallet. So
but we're going to have shows on that, so that at least you know the basics. And of course, when you do that, just mess around with $10 or $50 and till you trust yourself. And then basically you're your own crypto bank, and you can exchange crypto with friends or for other crypto. You can buy NFTs with it. You can do all kinds of stuff. We're going to go into all that in future episodes.
Yeah, fantastic. So I know we potentially rambled on a little bit long there for our intro video, but we do want to give you a bit of a wide scope of the things we're talking about, which is a lot of stuff outside of domains. Some of the people who have followed the show who are purely domain investors, well, they may or may not be interested in that stuff, and that's fine. Each of our podcasts will be clearly marked what the subject matter is, and you can watch it or not watch it. But we hope to attract a wide variety of people to this space who will then want to buy domain names because they've learned more about domains, because they came in to learn about crypto and they go, oh, domains, and vice versa. So it's going to be a big, big universe. Like
they're all digital assets.
All digital assets. And this is the asset show. So
it is. And one more tidbit, when we bring guests on, we won't, I don't think, me and Ed were maybe going to do this, but I don't think we'll do it today. We're going to ask guests a question each time they come on. And starting from the next episode, you'll see what that question is. And I'll leave that there.
Fantastic. A little bit of a carrot, a little bit of a hook. Tune in to find out what the question is. Oh, the suspense is killing people. Rob, you're a tormentor. All right. On that note, thank you. And thanks for coming along for the ride. We look forward to having all of you back on in the future. And thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
All right.
See you next episode.
Catch you on the flip side. Bye for now.